Hi, have you been looking to make your own cocoa butter colors? Well, today we're going to do just that, and we're going to use the CocoPix to do it. If you want amazing looking chocolates just like this, with this beautiful shine and finish, stay tuned. So, the first step to making cocoa butter colors is cocoa butter. And here we have two forms of cocoa butter. We have tempered cocoa butter calots and we have raw cocoa butter. Now I'm going to show you to make your own cocoa butter colors using either the calots or the raw cocoa butter. But first we're going to start with the calots. So let's go ahead with that now. Alright, so the first step to making your cocoa butter colors using tempered cocoa butter is your pigment. Now we have a fat soluble pigment over here and it's a beautiful red color. So we're going to add that to our bottle right now. Alright, let's add it in. And the next part is we're going to add the cocoa butter into the bottle. And we've added our cocoa butter and now we are ready to melt it. Now, making cocoa butter colors with the CocoPix has never been simpler. All you need to do is add your color and your cocoa butter and melt it, and then you just mix it. That's about it. The reason we can do that is because we have a very controlled heating, and that's what makes this possible. So we are going to wait for this to melt, and then we'll be back and we'll show you the red cocoa butter colors. Alright, so now we're going to make cocoa butter colors using raw cocoa butter. So the first step would be to break this down into smaller pieces. Let's do that now. Alright, here it is. And now we're going to put it into one of these bottles so that they fit in the CocoPix. And here we go. So now we just close the lid and place it in the CocoPix. And we allow that to melt. And once it's melted, we'll start to temper it. Alright, so now the cocoa butter has been melting for some time now and it's fully melted, and we're going to pour it into a bowl and we're going to temper it. We have done a similar video on tempering chocolate. If you haven't checked out that video, then please go ahead and take a look at it. The process is pretty much the same for cocoa butter or for chocolate. So let's start by pouring the cocoa butter out. Alright, so you can see the cocoa butter is completely melted. And now we're going to add our pigment to it. Now, when you're using pigment in cocoa butter colors, you need to make sure that the pigment is fat soluble, and this is. And the proportion of pigment to cocoa butter can be anywhere from 1% to 10%. We are using a higher percentage over here because I want the color to be a little more opaque. If you want a more translucent effect, then you can use a little less of the pigment in it, and you'll get that effect. Right? Just going to stir it in. Oh, another thing I want to mention is that you always need to save your cocoa butter pigment colors before you pour it into the cocoa butter so that you don't get any clumps in it. We're just going to make sure that it's fully incorporated, and in doing so we are also trying to cool it down so that we can temper it. And you can see the color slowly changes and it becomes a whiter shade. Alright, so we are back and the cocoa butter is now cooling. We are approaching 35.5, so we are near to the temperature where we can add in our cocoa butter silk. So if you want to temper using cocoa butter silk, all you need to do is add around 1 to 2% by weight of cocoa butter silk to your cocoa butter, and your cocoa butter will be tempered. So the range at which you add the cocoa butter silk is between 34.5 to 35 degrees Celsius. Alright. And right now we are at 35.1, and so I'm going to start to get ready to add my cocoa butter silk. So I have around 200 grams of cocoa butter in here. So I'm going to add about 4 grams of cocoa butter silk to it. So in chamber 1, I have my cocoa butter silk all ready to go. And here you can see I have beautiful cocoa butter silk. Just going to add that in. Yep. And I'm going to stir it in. Now you just need to make sure that your silk is spread throughout your cocoa butter, and as soon as you start to see the cocoa butter start to thicken up, your cocoa butter is ready to use. Now the working temperature for cocoa butter is somewhere around 30 degrees Celsius. So once I mix this all in, I'm going to pour it back into my bottle over here, and the chamber has been heating to 29 degrees Celsius, and that's my working temperature. So we are at 32 right now, and you can see that the cocoa butter has started to thicken up. And once we reach about 30, I'll start pouring it into the bowl. Great thing about the CocoPix is that it will keep your cocoa butter warm and in temper. So you don't have to worry about it cooling down while you're working and stuff like that. This is what it's designed for. So. And also once you have tempered cocoa butter, you don't have to re-temper it again and again. It stays tempered in the CocoPix. Another point I'd like to mention is that if your pigment is not thoroughly dissolved in your cocoa butter, you can use an immersion blender and you'll get a nice, beautiful, consistent cocoa butter color. Alright, we are now at 30, so I'm going to start pouring it into the bottle. And your cocoa butter color is ready. So that was making cocoa butter colors using raw cocoa butter. Okay, so I'm going to show you a really simple technique. I'm just going to use a single drop, and I'm going to use the airbrush to give it a nice effect. So let's start by adding a few drops to each cavity. You can see that beautiful red color, and then after I put my cocoa butter color in there, I'm just going to give it a little spray with the airbrush. I'm going to turn on the airbrush now, so it's going to get a little loud. Bear with me. And there we have it, and we're just going to allow it to set up so that we get this beautiful effect once we have a white background on it. I'm going to complete the rest of the cavities, and I'll see you back once it's set up. Alright, so we're back, and the red cocoa butter color has set up beautifully. So now we're going to have a base coat of white so that we get a nice shine on it. So over here I have my airbrush, and before I pour my cocoa butter color into it, I'm going to heat it up so that I don't chop the cocoa butter color. It's important to heat up the entire airbrush. And that's it. Alright, so I've warmed up the airbrush, and here I have my white cocoa butter color. So just going to open the lid and pour some of it. And now we're going to spray it. So we want a nice even coat. So let's start. Alright, we are back, and the cocoa butter colors have set up beautifully, as you can see here. So now we are just going to fill them with some chocolate, and then after that we're going to cap them, and we will come back for the unmolding. So let's fill them with chocolate now. So over here I have my chocolate that has already been melted, and we're just going to fill them up now. So now we're just going to give it a taps to get rid of all the air bubbles. Okay. And now we're going to get rid of the excess chocolate. Okay, I'm just going to scrape this up. And our chocolate shells are ready. We just wait for it to set up, and once it's set up, we'll fill it in. Alright, and we're back, and the chocolate has set up, and now we're just going to fill it in with some ganache. It's just a simple ganache with chocolate and butter and a little bit of cornflour. Alright, so finally we have our bonbons ready. We have filled and capped them, and now we're going to unmold them. So let's see how they turned out. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Alright, so here you have it, beautifully tempered bonbons. Let me show you one up close. Here you go. And that's how you get beautifully tempered chocolate. You can see the reflection. and that's a really cool effect with the airbrush. So I hope you like this video, and I hope you'll subscribe and watch our channel for more videos, and check out the CocoPix because this was all made possible with using this device. Thank you.